most people who look like me have, or who are women, have accolades
Yep.
this big, and they have been through the trenches.
Yep.
And so they're going to perform and they're going to outperform. And so people are going to say stuff. And eventually they're going to say it behind your back because you're going to keep going forward and they're going to still be focused on you. And that's okay. So keep
Mhm.
performing.
Three things you'll learn in this episode. Number one, how grit, resilience, and self-belief took my guest from the Bronx to the edge of space. Number two, leadership lessons from the cockpit and how they translate to every boardroom. And number three, the mindset shifts needed to break barriers and lead with fearless authenticity. Welcome to this episode of the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. I feature Olympians, CEOs, disruptors, authors, professional athletes, and the best of the best, where they share their stories of resilience with my lens on leadership and culture. Let's get started. What do you get when you combine a Bronx born engineer with unstoppable grit, the only Black woman to ever fly the legendary U-2 Dragon Lady, 3,400 plus flight hours, including 338 hours in combat, a contestant on CBS's Tough as Nails, a best-selling author and speaker inspiring the next generation? You get Colonel Merryl Tengesdal, a trailblazer who went from public housing to the stratosphere, breaking barriers at every altitude. Her story is one of resilience, fearless leadership, and the courage to shatter every ceiling in her path. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Oh, thank you so much, Lindsay, for having me here today. This is awesome. I
I
love
have
it.
been
Thank you.
looking forward to this. This is going to be fun. Okay, so I start the show the same way every time, and I always ask my guests, could you please share a little bit of your story?
Okay, so I will condense it real quick. So, born and raised in the Bronx, as you pointed out, go Yankees, even though they're struggling a little bit right
I
now.
know, I know.
So, uh, at the age of 7, I decided, after watching so many Star Trek episodes, that I wanted to be an astronaut. And at the age of 7, I said, okay, this is going to get done because I wanted to boldly go where no one had gone before, just like Captain Kirk and the crew of the Enterprise. And so I looked at my situation and said, how can I do this? And I looked at the Star Trek characters and I said, well, I got to do well in math and science. I'm probably going to have to do something technical. I'm going to have to fly planes before I could fly the space shuttle. This is what I want to do. So I embarked on that journey at the age of 7, looking at every type of challenge in my life as a means to inform my decision in the future when I met my first alien. So when you looked at the crew of the Enterprise, you would look at like Captain Kirk and Uhura and Spock, and when they went to a new planet, they would just use all these past experiences to help inform them and overcome obstacles. So that's what I decided that I needed to do in my life, and that started embarking on that. So early on, math and science was my thing. I graduated from college with a degree in electrical engineering at the University of New Haven. I ended up joining the Navy first after a little bit of bumps in the road. I was going to go to the Army, but I started the Army. I ended up with the Navy, um, starting out getting commissioned in 1994 at Officer Candidate School with a pilot slot. I flew for the Navy for 10 years, flying helicopters first, and I was a fixed wing instructor flying the T-34, instructing students, and then the T-6 as a Navy instructor flying Navy and Air Force students. In 2004, I switched over to the Air Force. I applied for the U-2 program because it was something I looked at the U-2, it resonated with me. It was a high altitude reconnaissance, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance aircraft. And I said, this is what I have to do. And so in 2004, I got picked up for the program
Oh my God.
and I embarked on flying the aircraft. And from there, I was a lieutenant commander select, became a major select, and then stayed with the Air Force for the next 13 years, where I retired as a colonel out of the Pentagon.
Amazing. I mean, there are very few guests that I have on the show that know at 7 years old this is what they want to do. So, first of all, that's very cool. But I just love how you understood there was some building blocks to get you there. And it wasn't just going to be luck. Like you knew you had to go in prepared. You knew you had to be thinking about what does that persona that I want to embody, what does it need? And so you studied and you learned. And so I got to know. I mean, you were the only Black woman that's ever flown the U-2 spy plane, right? Is that still the
Yes,
case?
still the case. 70 years.
Amazing. And what was that like the first time? And for those who don't know what a U-2 spy plane is, maybe you can tell a little bit more about it because I think if you're in the military, maybe you know, but outside of it, you might not.
Yeah, a lot of people, when you tell them that when I've said I've flown the U-2, they go, they're still flying those. So this aircraft has been around since 1955. It was designed by Kelly Johnson. It The purpose of the aircraft was to spy on Russia and China
Hmm.
during the Cold War. And so once it was released when it did its first flight on August 1st, 1955, it was under the CIA program, and then it eventually came over to the Air Force. So there have not been many pilots flying this aircraft. In fact, we just celebrated our 1,117th solo in the 70-year history of the U-2. So that's how many pilots have flown. So it's a very small group.
Mm.
And of women, there are maybe 12 women overall in 70 years that have flown the aircraft. People of color, it's about 12, 13. So for me to
Wow.
be the only Black woman, it's like a small group of a small group. So I'm kind of like a unicorn a little bit.
Yes.
Yes. But the aircraft itself, its uniqueness is, again, it's high altitude intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. It flies above 70,000 feet. It doesn't have weapons, so it gains, it does imagery in terms of electrical, optical, or infrared. It
Mhm.
does Doppler
Mhm.
as like a weather pattern that you see on TV, and it also does what's called an optical bar camera. So it takes pictures at that altitude with the resolution of if you had a Polaroid camera and you took a picture. That's how clear these
Wow.
pictures. It also is designed to receive and listen to signals that are in the atmosphere. So any type of signal.
Mhm.
So we're when I was flying the aircraft back primarily between 2004 and 2015, I flew in Operations Enduring Freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom, OEF and OIF. So I flew over Afghanistan and Iraq primarily. So our mission out there was to help the troops on the ground, the JTACs, and when they were in contact with the enemy, we would give them information, all sorts of different types of information in near real time to help them be successful with their mission or the convoy ops on the ground. So it was definitely an honor to be able to do that, to talk to those people on the ground and to supply them information that would keep them alive. So that is what the U-2 does. No weapons on the aircraft. The uniqueness about it is that because we fly above 70,000 feet, we have to wear a pressure suit, which is basically a NASA spacesuit. It's made by David Clark. And so we fly single seat. There are no other people who fly with us. So I always joke that you have to be a little not quite right to be in an aircraft for hours on end in a pressure suit in the size of
Yeah.
this, and you're by yourself. And so you the beauty is that you get to see the Earth from above 70,000.
Very
And
few
you also,
people get to see that, so that's got to be
very,
pretty exceptional.
right, very few people. I mean, there were days when I flew that if there was no one in the International Space Station, I was the highest person flying that day. And so it's, it was an amazing to see the Earth at that perspective, to get different ideas,
Mm,
but also to know that you put your body through a lot of physiological
I bet.
dangers and pressures, and it molds you into a different type of person.
Mm.
So the mental fortitude of most U-2 pilots are just a lot higher. We endure a lot of loneliness time, downtime, but again, we always say we're from the land of the not quite right. So you have a special type of person. That's why they have an interview process because it's not for everyone. And the
No,
aircraft, yeah.
we had Mace Curran on the show a year or so ago, and she was one of the only women to fly lead solo for the Thunderbirds, and she talked a lot about how the physical impact that it has on your body from the G-force. And I would have to imagine flying all, I mean, what was a typical flight? How long was a typical flight in the U-2?
So a U-2 mission typically lasts anywhere from 8 to over 12 hours. So So the difference between flying, and I love Mace. Mace is great.
Yeah.
So, she's an awesome person. To fly in the U-2, we experience the same things as divers do. So
Yeah.
decompression, DCS
Yeah.
is a real serious thing for us. The reason why is because we're flying at those altitudes. So the suit that we wear provides two things, 100% oxygen throughout the whole flight. We actually have to pre-breathe 100% oxygen an hour prior before taking off
Um,
because nitrogen is what causes DCS. And then the other thing is that the suit will inflate if you're at altitude. If there's a rapid decompression in the aircraft, the suit will inflate and you look like the Michelin Man. Um, it will inflate to keep your body at an altitude of 35,000. Because anything above 63,000 feet Armstrong's line, there's not enough pressure in the atmosphere to keep the blood in your body. So if the cockpit depressurizes and you're not wearing the suit or you have a hole, um, your time of life is a matter of seconds for you to go, oh man, and it's a wrap. So those are the things that we deal with.
okay, so you retire from the Air Force,
Yes.
and then what?
I retired from the Air Force, and like most pilots, a lot of pilots like to go right to the airlines.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that's familiar to them.
Mm-hmm.
Not me. I said, what I learned as I started going up in the ranks and being a major, late stage major, being a director of operations, being a commander, and then moving on, I found that I loved leading people. I loved trying to make people a better version of themselves. I loved having an objective and getting people in consensus and getting there and being successful. I enjoyed it very much. And I found that I was pretty good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I retired, I decided that I wanted to do the same thing for young folks,
Mm-hmm.
and inspire youth in ways. And the best way, in my mind, I thought would be through personal training.
Mm-hmm.
I thought nothing is better than working out with young folks or teaching them boxing or teaching them Muay Thai skills, and then getting them tired enough and then giving them little nuggets that they had to listen to because they can't run away from me because they're worn out. So as I did that, I became a personal trainer at a local gym.
Mm-hmm.
I had my credentials and my certifications before I retired, and I just started doing that. And that led to me doing more social media and
Mm-hmm.
getting into the social media world, which is very interesting. And that also led to a casting producer from the CBS show Tough as Nails to notice me and reach out to me saying, we would love you for the show. She said she first saw me and thought I was really fun and danced a lot, but then she scrolled down and saw me in the pressure suit. She's like, "What the hell?" Like her mind was blown. She's like,
Yeah.
"She's a retired colonel," and then they reached out. They were like, "Yeah, we want you." So,
Yeah, I
uh,
watched that episode with you on it, and it was, I mean, that show is insane. I'm in my mind, I can do these things, but I would never try it because I know I can't. But to actually get to talk to you and know that you were there, it's pretty powerful stuff. So, talk a little bit about some of your favorite leadership lessons, either that somebody taught you or that you like to give to others. What are just some of your favorite little nuggets?
one of my favorite nuggets that I got was when I was initially a student in flight school. When we went through flight school, you had what's called an on-wing, your first instructor. And he was not my very first instructor. My first instructor, he was going on terminal leave. He was getting out of the military. So I ran into this gentleman by the name of Gramps, Ronnie Robinson, lieutenant type. He became my on-wing, and he was known in the circle of pilots and student pilots as a screamer. This is a man that would yell at you and curse you out in the aircraft. And so I would fly with him for
Wait,
two
well,
hours.
you're like just on a regular flight, or like what are you doing that he's cursing you out? Where are you?
Oh, I'm a student pilot, so
Oh,
I'm learning to fly, and
motivating. Great.
so so he was very loud. He was a very loud man, and if I didn't fly on airspeed and altitude, in particular in the pattern, because you have to fly very tight numbers.
Mhm.
There's there's no deviation in flying an aircraft. So if you need to be at 200 feet, it's 200 feet.
Exactly.
It's plus or minus 50 feet. It's not plus 200, and
Mm-mm.
it's definitely not minus anything, right? So it's because lives are on the line. So he didn't mess around, and he was very vocal about that. There was one day when he yelled at me so bad, I just hung my head in the cockpit, and then he yelled at me. He's like, "I can't see the back of your head. Look out!" So we don't like he just there was nothing I could do right that day. And
No,
then we'd land, and he would just be like, "Oh, that was an average flight. You need to do this better." Meanwhile, I'm
ready to
sweating.
cry. Yeah,
I'm on the verge of tears, but I'm sucking it up because I'm a
yeah,
military person.
yeah.
But even through all that, he prepared me like no other from my first check ride. I mean, I like did so well, and we became friends, not friends, but mentor
Mhm.
type, mentee type relationship. And so when I was done flying, it was time for us to select. And when you're done in flight school, you select. And in the Navy, it was jets, helos, props, or E2C2s. And I was feeling a little down on myself because I didn't know if I got picked for jets or if I didn't, would I be good enough? How is this all going to go? A little bit of imposter syndrome is
Hmm.
creeping in because, it wasn't enough that I had flown and done well and didn't have any problems during flight school. I did pretty well, but I still had those doubts about myself. And we were talking one day, and he said to me, "Look, Merrill, when you walk into a room, people are going to see you and they're going to think a lot of things. They're going to think you're there because you're black. They're going to think you're there because you're a woman. They can think about a whole bunch of other things." And this is a guy from the South. So he
Yeah.
had this Southern accent, white hair. And he said, "But if you perform like you did with me as a student," and he said, "You were one of the best students I flew with." He said, "I threw everything at you." He said, "The moment I knew you had it locked in is when I was yelling at you to fly a simulated engine out approach to this island, and you were in a 55-degree angle of bank holding 2 Gs, just flying this approach to get on the numbers." He's like, "I knew you had what it took."
Hmm.
And he said, "If you keep performing like that, regardless of who's in the room, eventually they're not going to say you're there because of whatever. They're going to say you're there because you're that damn good."
Hmm.
So that stuck with me forever. And I tell people that because it's all about performance.
Hmm.
And a lot of people could say things, "Oh, you're here because you're a DI hire, you're this or that." Let me tell you, most people who look like me or who are women, have accolades
Yep.
this big, and they have been through the trenches.
Yep.
And so they're going to perform and they're going to outperform. And so people are going to say stuff. And eventually they're going to say it behind your back because you're going to keep going forward and they're going to still be focused on you. And that's okay. So keep
Hmm.
performing. So that's one of the things that I learned early on as a person, as a leader, and instilled that in people as I moved up in the ranks and saw people who looked like me,
Mm.
and I could see the doubt creeping in with
Sure.
them.
So
Yeah,
let me
so
ask you a question about that because I think in the military, having a leader who yells is normal. We see that more than we see that certainly in the business landscape. However, I did see leaders stand on tables, jump up and down, and throw things, and they were not very inspiring to me or to the people around us. In fact, we wouldn't go near them and didn't want to touch them with a 10-foot pole and didn't want to do much for them. But um, how did how did that work for you? Because if somebody was yelling at me all the time, I get it more with athletics and more with the military, but from a regular day-to-day business perspective, that doesn't go as well. So talk a little bit about that and how that worked, because I don't know, I think I'd be kind of, maybe I just don't have the makeup to be the pilot that way. I think that would be challenging.
So let me let me I understand that perspective. So in the military, a lot of the yelling, at least when I was going through in the 90s, was really a factor of you're going to be in charge as a young person of other men and women, equipment, millions, if not billions of dollars
Yep.
of aircraft and other things. And the attitude of, it's not a big deal if I'm doing this wrong today, I'll get it tomorrow, doesn't cut it when there are
Mm-mm.
lives on the line. And in our NATOPS or in the AFIs for the Air Force, when you read these instructions, especially flying, a lot of it is written in blood because
Hmm.
people have done something wrong or by mistake and it's costing their lives.
Hmm.
And so we take that very seriously.
Yep.
And there's going to be times as a military person you're going to be under duress because
Of course.
you're a military person. So you have to be able, I think there's a simulation of that artificiality
Hmm.
with the screaming and yelling and how much you can draw within to be able
Yeah.
to block it out and still get the mission. That is definitely different than in the corporate world.
Yeah. If somebody
Most
yelled at me
people,
like that, I'd be like, you can go F yourself and I will
right,
find another job.
right. So in the corporate world or in the business world, that's not going to fly as much.
Mm-mm.
Um, it's not, most things are not, we need to get it now or people are going to die.
Hmm.
It's so you have to temper that. Like
Hmm.
that is a tool, as I said, as I grew up, everything is a tool in your belt. The yelling is a tool depending on the situation.
Hmm.
But as you get up into leadership, there's a lot of people that you just talk to and you hold them accountable and you
Yeah.
talk to them with respect and you talk to them in a nice way. Even though you have rank over them or something over them, that's how you address those things. When
Yeah.
I became a major and when I was a flight instructor, would I yell? I will I will not lie and say I didn't yell. There
Yeah.
have been times I have yelled if a student had an attitude with me. I
Sure.
remember one time I took the aircraft from a student and yelled at him for about 5 minutes and then gave it back to adjust his attitude. But when I was a leader as a director of operations or an acting commander or commander, I didn't yell in those ways.
No.
I talked, which I think most people were more afraid of. If I talk very low and very
Oh
measured,
yeah. Well,
then they know.
you're so chill. So I would imagine it'd be a little scary seeing you yell. But I think also that quiet, calm, like that wasn't right, will really kind of make people quake a little and like, oh gosh, I'm in the shit. Um, so let's talk a little bit about mindset, because you get to work with a lot of young people, and there's definitely something going on right now where I've had a number of guests come on. We're a little worried about this upcoming generation and their level of resilience and level of grit. You know, the if they're uncomfortable, they want to run the other way. Obviously, if they're working with you, they are not of that makeup and they know that they're there to work hard. Um, but can you share some of your observations on what you're seeing with young people that are coming up? And then I'd love to dip into mindset.
Young people coming up, my biggest concern is
Yeah.
this.
Yep. Phone.
So, and the reason why it's an issue, um, I was talking with a friend who's a therapist. She does youth child development and we were discussing it. The phone has, remember when we were growing up, we had our favorite stuffed animal, our
Sure.
lovey, our blankie.
Of course.
Imagine the phone now replacing all of that.
That
And that
has.
and that's what it is.
Yeah.
So it's something that not only that kids gravitate to and want to hold, they they like you take it away and it can make them
They're
spiral
lost.
out.
Yeah, they're
Yeah, they're
lost.
lost.
Yeah.
And so and the problem with that is that these social media platforms, they need to understand that it's not designed, it's you can communicate with people and
Yep.
grow community, but it's really an advertisement tool.
Hmm.
And so when you're really into the likes and not the connection
Quick
and
dopamine hits. Yeah.
the dopamine hits and the likes that are forming who you are,
Hmm.
that's that is what's kind of hurting young adults. This morning, my son, he doesn't even have a phone. He's going to be 13 in November. He has a house phone.
Yeah.
Him and his sister use a house phone that's just a cell phone. And so this morning I go in his room and he's on it and I'm like, give me the phone. Because I'm like, in the mornings we don't check phones. We
Uh-uh.
get up, we get dressed, we do these things. And he apologized profusely, but it's there.
Yeah.
And I think that is what's really messing with kids' minds. And as parents, we have to really be attuned to that and be able to intervene and like really try to guide them through this process of the phone can be a great tool, but
Mm.
you cannot rely on it so much. So how does that, how are kids being raised?
Mm.
They're being raised now with AI coming on, maybe not critically thinking as much. They're
100%.
they're falling into the trap of they have this feed that's given to them that's very myopic of what they're into. So it's just an echo chamber for their feelings. And they don't know how to go out and think and look at other perspectives.
Yeah, the
So,
problem solving and the
yeah,
critical
so,
thinking and the
so
ability to
you,
navigate a tough situation. Like as soon as
right,
it's hard, I'm out.
right. So those are the things that I see. And when I talk to kids or when I'm working out with kids, I do a couple of things. I always try to bring that perspective in. Like what you see is I want you to look at a situation from someone else's view or someone else's perspective or think of it a different way. I also talk to kids if they're in a group setting that you guys are friends, you guys need to look out for one another.
Hmm.
You guys need to be, you know, have that friendship, have that integrity, that honesty. Um, so it is a problem. It is a problem, especially for the underserved community. The underserved community, to me, they don't see a potential future. All they see is an echo chamber of what's happening right now in their environment. And I don't like that because I think that they are the future engineers, the
Yeah.
future creative minds, the future innovators. I wish that other companies, instead of trying to outsource to other countries, which is not a big deal, would do equally as amount of insourcing in those areas to help people. So that's what I see, and that's what I'm trying to do in my own way,
Mhm.
whether I speak to different schools, whether I'm just being that example. So,
All right, hold tight. We're going to come back in 30 seconds. We're going to take a
yeah.
petite break and then we'll come right back with some more questions. So hang on. If you like the stories you hear every week on this show, guess what? I have hundreds more from my nearly 30 years in the leadership trenches. And I don't just talk about building irresistible culture, I do it. You can bring me into Keynote, moderate your panels, or work directly with your leaders to drive material change. So let's roll up our sleeves, go out to heartbeatforhire.com, let's connect, and let's make some magic happen. Go lead with heart. Okay, welcome back. Okay, Meryl, this is a part I love. What inspires you?
Oof, what inspires me? What inspires me is the look on a child's face when they accomplish something,
Mm.
or a young adult when they are going through the fire and they're persistent, and I'm able to help or network or give them some inspiration that makes them get to that next level. That inspires me. To uplift others, that inspires me quite a bit.
Mm.
I love it, whether it's my own kids or whether it's someone else, whether it's a human, whether it's another person. I don't know, I just got a D. I've been getting DMs recently from people who are like, "Hey, I just found your page and I love this. I was either a military brat or I
Mhm.
was in the military and I love what you do and this inspires me to do this and that." Or someone will
Oh,
say
it's
to
gotta
me,
feel so good. I
"Yeah," or
love
or
that.
they'll say, "Meryl, are you still welding?" Because I do
Yeah.
weld.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then, "When are you taking your next class?" I'm like, I am taking my next class and it's gonna be brutal.
I love it. What would you like your legacy to be?
my legacy, just to have people that are innovators, that don't quit, that help other people to be the best individual that they can possibly be. That's what I want my legacy to be. I think my kids will carry that on. But it's real simple to me. I just want to leave this place better than it was,
Mm,
and I want to inspire as many people as possible.
well, you're already doing that. So, what is next for you?
Next, I'm I'm really happy in the next 4 weeks or 6 weeks. I have a graphic novella, aka comic book that's coming out, Shatter the Sky, Tales of Dragon Lady 788. All right, I'll show it like
Do just a little sneak peek. And this is only for people that are watching. If you're listening, you can't see what we're seeing. Look at it. It's gorgeous. Very cool. It's very, very cool.
so we're in the final phases of it. I'm excited. I can't wait to share it. I do believe that young people, I know they love manga. I know they love stories. I want something uplifting, something that they can walk away with, some little nuggets. This one definitely has it, and the subsequent um, volumes after this will have nuggets for it. So more to follow.
I
Can't
love it.
wait.
Well, and I love that
See, you make me share. You make me share stuff.
I did my job. I love that you are creating something for people to look up to because, as you described back in the day, your role models were from Star Trek and they weren't necessarily people that you knew, but you have become that to so many. So I really want to congratulate you for that and give you your flowers because it's important stuff. Um, and I think if memory serves, you're already an author, right?
Yes.
Yes. What's
So
your
my
book
book,
about?
yeah, my book is called Shatter the Sky. We're going to the stratosphere. It taught me about self-worth, sacrifice, and discipline.
Mm.
It talks about me being a young girl in the Bronx, and it goes through 4 stages, me and my Navy years, my Air Force years, and the next mission that I'm doing right now. So it talks about just growing up as a kid in the 70s. Yes, I was born in 1971, and how there were just stereotypes, there was expectations, and how I did not want to do any of those things, and I wanted to fly, and I wanted to explore space, and so how I navigated those things, and how I navigated as a student pilot, as a leader in two branches of the military. There was definitely some ups and downs, and how I flew different aircraft. I've flown 6 different aircraft while I was in the military for 23 years. And what I'm doing next as a mom of one biological son and an adoptive daughter. So my husband and I, we adopted my daughter 4 years ago, but she was a foster with us for a year prior, and how that's going in motherhood. That is, yeah, anyone who's a parent out there, I applaud you. There's some trials and
Oh, yeah.
tribulations,
Oh,
but
yeah.
there's there's great times as well. And what I'm doing next and why. So
I'm so happy for you.
I'm
How
excited.
can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram. That is my home of record, as we say, or my base, as Dragon Lady 788. So Dragon Lady was the name of the U-2, and 788 is my pilot number. So I'm the 788th pilot in the U-2
And
program.
you're on LinkedIn, and
You can
we're going to share all the stuff in the show notes,
yes.
so not to worry. But please, you guys, check out Meryl's book. Go follow her, connect with her, tell her you heard it. You heard her here. My friend, this has been really fun. Thank you for sharing all of your wisdom and your story. I think you're going to inspire a whole lot of people with this episode. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This is awesome.
It's my pleasure. All right, everybody, sit tight. We're going to do an audience question right after this, so hang tight and I'll be with you in just a moment. Today's audience question isn't a question, it's a story. And this story I learned pretty early in my career. I was on a team at Lotus, which was being acquired by IBM at the time, and I was very, very enthusiastic. I know it's hard to believe, very enthusiastic about the work that I was doing, the team that I was a part of, and the environment that I was in. And I started to notice there were things that needed fixing. There were things that weren't working right, things that could be improved. And so I would run into my manager's office and I would be like, oh my gosh, all these things are broken. This one, this one, this one, this one. She was very patient and she would listen and listen and listen. And one day she stopped me and she said, Lyndsay, you're really astute. You really pay attention. You see all of the things that need to be improved upon. You complain about them, but you never bring me solutions. Well, I was devastated. I didn't realize I'd become the girl who bitches, and that is not a good look for anyone. And she said, you can come to me, but always bring me solutions. And that was such a valuable lesson because that was ultimately the way that I was going to manage my teams. And when I said to them, come to me anytime if you've got a problem, but you have to bring me a solution, it taught them critical thinking. It taught them problem solving. It taught them collaboration. It was such a smart way to lead. So I leave you with that nugget. I hope that's helpful to you. And maybe tell your teams, bring me your solutions with the problems, because that's how we change the business. That's how you give them skin in the game. And it says that you're an open-minded leader. You don't have all the answers and you value their opinions and their contributions. That is a look that is always going to look good on you. Thank you for listening. Go share the show. Tell your friends about the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. It is climbing the ranks. We are in the top 2.5% globally, and I couldn't get there without all of you listening. Thank you so, so much for supporting the show. Go out there, lead with heart. Have a great day. Take care. Thanks for listening to this episode of Heartbeat for Hire. I hope you enjoyed what you heard. If you did, please subscribe to my YouTube channel or consider leaving a 5-star review and a great rating at Spotify or Apple. Thank you so much for your support. Have a great day.